Hello and welcome to the Economy This Week series of Drishti IAS. I am Ritu and today's session is about what economic events happened in last week. So we are going to discuss the important economic events in the last week. So moving towards the points of discussion part. First of all, we are going to discuss the stubble burning because in India, especially in northern India, what we have seen that in the month of October, November, December, there is so much of pollution because of this stubble burning. So we are going to discuss about the stubble burning. Then we are going to discuss about the stock market down because in past 15 months, India was notably growing on and its stock market was growing on. But suddenly we have seen that there was a drop in Senses. So why it is so we are going to discuss, and then we are going to discuss about the lithium block auction. So here we will discuss about the particularly about the Jammu and Kashmir Riyasi district lithium ore auction, and after that we are going to discuss about the indexation and tax saving. This particular thing has been mentioned by Nirmala Sitharaman. So we are going to discuss that what budget has said about the indexation and tax saving, and after that we are going to discuss about the Chinese investment in India because this year economic survey has discussed about the Chinese investment in India. So we are going to discuss all these important topics in today's session. So moving towards the first topic, which is the stubble burning. So this topic has been taken from the Indian Express. How a new tech promises to kill weeds in rice and wheat fields, remove need for the stubble burning. So here we are going to discuss about a technology which will be helpful in the to remove the stubble burning, and also how there will be the climate friendly agriculture and how the technology can help us to reduce the pollution, and there can be a sustainable farming also. So this particular tech we are going to discuss about the two crops. So the first crop is the rice and the second one is the wheat. So cultivating rice using the less water and not burning the leftover straw after harvesting, and wheat without any plowing and land preparation. So this seems very impossible, and that how this can be possible because this is a method of farming wheat and rice. So if will not use water and if will not burn the leftover straw, then how you will clear the field and how you will plow for another crop. And similarly we have the same thing in the wheat, that without any plowing and land preparation how you can do this. So here we'll discuss about the technology. So there can be a breakthrough of late, and this is the breeding of varieties hybrids that can tolerate the application of herbicide, which is Emes Thyper. And here we are going to discuss about basically about the Emes Thyper and why we have to use the herbicide weedicides, because of so much of herbs, and that herbs prevents the growth of the plant. So we have to use the herbicides, and there are so much of weeds on the plant, so we have to use the weedicides. So how Emes Hyper will help us to curb these kind of the problems? So what is the role of the Emes Hyper to control weeds and grasses that affect the growth of crop plants by competing with them for the nutrients and water and sunlight? So here we have to control on the herbs and weeds, because if they will grow up they will take nutrients of the plants, and that will prevent the growth of the rice and wheat. So we need Emes Hyper. And if we'll talk about the current kharif season, so we have the two varieties of basmati rice, Pusa Basmati 1979 and Pusa Basmati 1985, and we have two non basmati rice hybrids, which is Sawa 134 and Sawa 127. And who had developed this? So Indian Agriculture Research Institute and Savana Seeds Private Limited had developed this thing. This is very much important for your prelims examination because they can ask questions related to that, who has developed which kind of the rice. So you need to know that along with the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, Savana Seeds Private Limited has done this thing. Sometimes they change the name of this organization, so you have to be very careful about the thing. And what they contain, so we are talking about the this particular crop. So these contain a mutated acetolect synthesis, in short ALS gene, that enable farmers to spray Emes Thyper for controlling weeds in the rice. So because of the ALS gene, the farmers has to use the imist hyper for controlling weeds in the rice, such as the Echinocloa polana, commonly called as jungli chawal, and Cyprus rotundus, motha, and Triathema portulacestrum, patthar chatta. So because of these things, we need to use the imist hyper in order to control the weeds in rice. So this is about the imist hyper. Then we come to that we had discussed about the Kharif season. Now we'll discuss about the Rabi season, which is also known as spring winter season. So Maheko Private Limited is expected to launch its weeds varieties, which is known as Gol and Mukut, which are also amenable to imist hyper application for controlling Flaris minus. In local language, it is known as Guli Janda, and Xenopodium album, Bathua, and other major weeds. And why we need to use that? So in order to maintain the nutrients for the wheat, so these kind of imist hypers are used. And Jalna, Maharashtra based company, and Savana Seeds, the South Asian subsidiary of the Alvin Texas, have formed a joint venture to take their imist hyper tolerant full paste direct seeded rice and free hit zero tillage with technology to farmer for making this cropping system more climate smart and sustainable. So here we had discussed that why in paddy fields, in wheat fields, we need to use the imist hyper in order to control the weeds and herbs, because there are other plants and which are not required and which can prevent the growth of the main plant erupted, and we have to remove them, and for that we need such kind of the imist hyper. But that is not much eco-friendly. So there is a new technology which is known as DSR, direct seeded rice, and free hit zero tillage. So this will make more climate smart and sustainable farming. So here we'll discuss that herbicides tolerant solutions. So we have two, which is DSR and JT. So they will basically replace repeated field plowing with the chemical herbicides imist hyper to take care of the weeds. So whenever we discuss anything about the plowing and wheat, especially in the rice thing, so we need, what we do, that we flood the whole agricultural land, and then we plant the saplings to another place, and then we sow that kind of sapling to the flooded thing. And we need constant irrigation that requires a lot of labor, a lot of water, and a lot of irrigation facilities. But if we'll use the DSR technology and JT, there can be less chances of removing or reducing the water and usage, and also the labor usage. So we can use those water and labor to another field and another area. So that's why DSR and JT technology is needed. So that will make our agriculture more climate friendly and sustainable one also. So here there is a process, and earlier we used to need rupees 3 to 4,000 acre for plowing and sowing and every kind of the processes, but right now it has reduced the cost, which is 1200 per acre and so. And there is a roughly deduction of 30% of water, and apart from the labor also. So we have no exact idea about the labor, but there are chances to reduce the labor, and also around 30% of the water will be reduced from JT and DSR technology. So this is about that, how we are going to make our agriculture more tech friendly and climate friendly. And now we'll come to the another one, which is about markets are down. So this is the news: markets are down, but there is no need to panic. Here's why. So here we'll know the reasons that why we no need to the panic. So if we'll see the data that what markets are down, so if we'll see the data of 15 months, so we have seen that the levels has in last 15 months it has increased. But if we'll talk about the Monday, which is of the 5th August, so there was a root shock, and Sensex was at its it fell by 2.5%. So earlier we were doing good, and the 15 months data shows that we were going smoothly, but there was a root shock and it fell by the 2.5%. But so many experts, stock market experts, are saying that there is no need to panic. and why there's no need to panic. So before we should know that why there's no need to panic, especially for the Indian companies and Indian stock market. We'll discuss it later, but before that we should know the reasons that why there was a root shock, especially in the stock market. And it is not just India. So on an average, India fell by 3%, but if we'll talk about the Japan, it fell around 12%, and other countries around 8 to 9%. So comparatively, India has their level fell very less in compared to the other countries. So what are the concerns which led to such root shock? So there is a global concern around the recession, and there is no direct involvement of India into this. So we have a global recession, especially the USA economy is indicating the global recession. Then we have geopolitical concerns. We have this continuing war between Israel and Iran, the Middle Eastern war. So that had cumulatively impacted the whole stock market and also the Indian stock market. So it is not just there was a shock in Indian stock market, the other world stock market also dampened. So because of this, there are chance for the corrections, and so many experts had suggested that the investor must be cautious at this time. So in this slide, next slide, we are going to discuss that why Indians need not to the worry about this particular situation. So why they need not to worry about this particular situation? Because first of all, India is not directly involved into such kind of the situation, and because of the geopolitical tension, because of the global recession, such kinds are happening. And if we compare to the India's fell and India shock to other countries, so it is doing comparatively better. On the other hand, the experts had also suggested that there can be chances on the small and medium cap companies, but the large companies, there can be not much impact. So you also need to be cautious before investing, and they had issued some suggestion for the people who are involved into especially medium cap and small cap companies, and they're investing into it. So retail investors must be worried into this situation. But if you are in India and you are purchasing Indian stock things and various other bonds, so you need not much worry in comparison to the other countries. So this is thing that long term investors should not worry about this particular thing. Then what investors should do into this kind of situation? We are not advocating, and by our suggestion you should not change your investment pattern. We are just saying what experts have given opinion to this particular situation, and every situation differs. So the experts have said that we have to be very cautious at this time. They had suggested that we before investing any kind of the things, and especially in the medium and small cap companies, you need to be very cautious. And suppose that if in there is any retail investors, they also need to be very cautious. So this is the experts opinion. And they had also that large cap companies are better positioned to navigate such kind of the challenges, and investors should stay away from betting on small and mid cap companies, and retailers investor must stay away from the day trading. So these are the suggestions given by the experts of the stock market, that what they should behave into such kind of situation. Now we'll come to the another one, which is about the lithium block auction. So recently what we have seen, that there was a auction of a lithium block in Jammu and Kashmir, but it was scrapped by the government. And why it was scrapped by the government? Because we could not find much competition in lithium ore block. So because of that, it was scrapped by the government. So from where this news has erupted, and why there was a auction of Jammu and Kashmir lithium ore? So before 18 months, just before 18 months, the then secretary, mine secretary Vivek Bhardwaj had announced that there is a discovery of inferred deposit of 5.9 million tons of lithium ore in Jammu and Kashmir. And that has also said that it is one of the world's one of the largest reserves. So it has been speculated, not directly said. And why this auction was scrapped? Because we could not find bidders to this kind of thing, and because of that this auction was scrapped. and there was no clear guidelines also by the government because of the few policy guidelines and because of the less chances of economic viability, because of the so much confusion about the economic cost of these lithium ore. And also we could not know that if we'll be to such kind of the auction process and if we'll invest our money to this, we'll get economic benefit or not. So these things were not cleared, and because of that investors had shown their very less enthusiasm into the auction process, and because of that this has been scrapped by the government. So now we'll come to that, why have investors kept their distance so far. So I had already told you that because of the difficulties, because of the less focus given to the economic viability of this condition, and also it is very, the process of extracting mineral from this thing is very much difficult. So the difficulties around the extracting and processing lithium from hard rock pegmatite deposits like the ones found in Revasi. So because of the difficulty in extraction, this bidders and had not turned to the auction process. And also prospective bidders had a number of complaints from the bid documents having limited information about the block, because they have given very limited information about the block, and to apply modern mineral system. So there is a limited system, and even in fact the bidders will not be satisfied that if we'll invest our money to this particular kind of thing, and what will happen if we'll not get anything. So because of that also they were not interested in such kind of the things. And also why there is a need to improve the reporting standard. So as I have mentioned that there was no clear mentioning of that what is the economic cost of this thing, how will extract this thing, and because of that bidders were less enthusiastic about this thing. So we need to improve our reporting standards. Currently India is following the, what you can say, UNFC standard, so United Nations Framework Classification for Resources, which had not provided a sufficient information about the economic viability of the mining a mineral block. So India is following this UNFC. Many European countries are following the CRISCO thing. So it is suggested that India should also follow the CRISCO thing, not the UNFC things, because that has not provided sufficient information about the economic viability of this particular mineral. So because of that, now we'll come to the status of lithium deposit in India. So last month Ministry of Mines successfully auctioned off India's first lithium block in Chhattisgarh Korba district, and also in Korba, just south of this auction of limited lithium block, private exploration company funded by National Mineral Exploration Trust has founded hard rock lithium deposits ranging from 168 to 295 parts per million. So if we'll talk about the in Jammu and Kashmir, it's not because of the location, it's because of the less information about that particular district, about that particular site. This auction could not happen. If we'll talk about the Korba, we had also got information that there are chances and there are evidences of these minerals. And if we'll talk about the Manipur, so the exploration could not happen because of the protest by the local. If we'll talk about the Ladakh Meerut block, which is very close to the China border, lithium exploration which was funded by NMT yielded results that are not encouraging. So such kind of things had happened in Ladakh also, but the results are not encouraging. But in Chhattisgarh Korba, the results are encouraging. So similarly, we have also that NMET committee had recommended to drop an item dealing with the upgradation of lithium exploration in Dhubri and Kokrajhar district. So overall, if we talk about the current status of lithium ore in the country, it is not much promising, because sometimes if we are gaining the evidence, we are not able to apply our technology into it. The bidders are not turning up, and if somewhere there is extraction, the results are not positive. So because of this thing, the lithium ore deposits and extraction is not happening, and that is not adding economic advantages to the country. So this is about the status of the other lithium deposits in India. So what we can do into this situation, that if private investors are not auctioning this thing, then in this situation, if there are chances, the results are showing that there can be chances of more extraction of such kind of critical minerals, then government should intervene into this matter, and any company which is government backed company should auction this and should start their extracting process. So this is the only advisable thing. Now we'll come to the another one, which is about the indexation for long term capital gains. On discarding indexation for long term capital gains explained. So this is from the explained section of the Indian Express. So what we have got here is that in budget session, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has discussed about the indexation. So we are going to discuss about that, how people are not showing much enthusiasm to this indexation and doing away with the indexation. So in this budget speech, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced that union budget about doing away with the indexation for computing long term capital gains, and that has not drawn much enthusiasm. We'll discuss that why it has not drawn much enthusiasm. So what she has proposed, so she has proposed that after doing away with the indexation for computing long term capital gains, so she has proposed that long term capital gains on all financial and non financial asset would now be taxed at 12.5% instead of indexation. So many people had not shown their enthusiasm. So there was also memorandum which had explained about the finance bill, which stated that this was to ease the computation process, which has become very tricky when it talks about the capital gains for the taxpayer and tax administration. So this was basically to ease the computation process of long term capital gain tax. So here we'll discuss that why such decisions have been taken up, and so what was the purpose of indexation we have. So imagine if you're an individual in 2010, suppose that this is the base year, in 2010 you are buying a flat of rupees 10 lakh, and after exact 10 years in 2021 you are selling this flat into 75 lakhs. So in simple terms, if you'll think that how much one person has gained, so this was the addition of 65 lakhs. But if we'll actually discuss and analyze this situation, is it the actual gain of 65 lakhs? So it is not the actual gain of 65 lakhs, because in last 10 years so many things has changed, the economic scenario has changed, the inflation has increased. So the cost of any property has increased, but it is not just the 65 lakhs. So because there was so much economic events, and our economy, especially the Indian economy, was not stagnant for 10 years. So we cannot say plainly that it is of this a gain of 65 lakhs, and we cannot tax accordingly. So here there was a benefit of indexation, and uh, indexation has a provision of cost inflation index, and where what it ensures, so it ensures that taxpayers are taxed on the real gains than gains at the prevailing prices. So here there is an analysis of that there should be, we should focus on the real gains. Suppose that real gains would be only 40 lakhs, so we'll tax accordingly, not just the 65 lakhs. So that's why this indexation process has been not promoted and not shown much enthusiasm by the people. So this is about the indexation. Now we'll come to the what's the issue. So here if we'll talk about the tax liability, so tax liability depends upon the two factors. The first is the rate on return, and the second is subjected time period. So here we have to also analyze the situation that if a person is buying a property or selling a property, we must acknowledge the situation of that time, that particularly that was the recession time, particularly that was the economic boom time. So we have to analyze the situation according to the real gain, not on the just plainly that okay, in these 10 years the person has gone this amount of money and we have to tax this thing. So this has become an issue, and if we'll leave the indexation process and if we will go to the new process, there are high chances that one has to pay more taxes. So that's why so many people are not interested into this thing, and they are more interested in the indexation thing, and indexation is showing a more reliability into this arena. So this is about this thing. Now we'll come to the next topic, which is about what does this mean for the assets. So many experts have think about that is it impact the economy or it will be impact our economy. So many economic expert has says that after the removal of indexation there will be the chances of adding dampness to overall sentiments of the market things, and it will hurt the balance of the whole economy and of the whole taxation process. And also a lot of time depends on the nature of the asset also. This is about the property, but we are not discussing about the other things also. So we have to look about the other things also, that what kind of the nature of assets we have, and then we have to charge and tax accordingly. So this is about that. And Abhijit Mukhopadhyay, who is also one of the expert, has said that those looking to buy a second house for the purpose of investment may potentially refrain from doing so. So it will also hurt the sentiments, and also about those people, suppose that if people are purchasing any land or purchasing any property or say any kind of the asset, so there will be, if such kind of things will happen, so if there are chances that they will not much enthusiastic about the reselling of the property or reselling of any assets, because they have to pay heavy taxation onto this. Also they it also prevents the transactions in the economy, and also it can hamper the overall growth of an economic system. Now we'll come to the another one, which is about the Chinese investments in India. So this economic survey had talked about that there can be a chances of Chinese investment in India, and economic survey has suggested that. However, this has been not truly accepted by the government of this country. The Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has said that there is no rethinking of the government to support the foreign direct investment by the Chinese authority. And he says that economic survey is a document, and its decisions, its suggestions are not binding on the government. It can suggest to boost the economy, but it is not binding on the government. So whatever it suggested, the government is not rethinking to take FDI from China. And why economic survey has suggested so? Because the western countries, especially the US and Europe, are shifting their markets from China, and they are deriving the other source. So in this situation India can take chance. And if we look the overall data in past few years, what we have seen, the trade of India with USA has increased. But if we look the overall, and in fact in past one decade, overall our economic trade, especially the export and import with China, is better. Because from past 4 5 years the trade with other countries, especially the USA, has increased, but overall with China it had better. So if we'll take FDI from China, it will be more boost to the economy. So this is a suggestion by the economic survey, and government has said that they will not rely on to this thing. And after the Galwan crash, the government had made a mandatory rule for the neighboring countries which share the land border with India. So which are the countries who share the land border with India? So we have China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar and Afghanistan. So government has said that you have to make a approval before taking any kind of FDI from these kind of the economies. It is not just China, it is all about the neighboring countries who are sharing their land border with India. So this is the one thing. And the government has said that they are not rethinking to take any kind of FDI from China, and especially for the manufacturing sector. So this is about this thing. Now we'll come to the question round. So the first question is, which of the following statement is correct regarding the India's foreign direct investment policy and trade relation with China? So India receives the majority of its FDI from China, with China ranking as the top FDI contributor. India has banned over 200 Chinese mobile apps and rejected a major investment proposal from Chinese electric vehicle maker following tensions in the Galwan Valley. The US has consistently been India's largest trading partner since 2013 and 14. The Economic Survey of July 22 suggests that India should avoid seeking FDI from China to boost local manufacturing and tap the export market. So this is very easy one. If we have read Economic Survey, if we you know about the India's relation with the USA, economic relation with the USA, India's relation with the China, then you are able to solve this question. So you have to comment down. Then we'll come to the second one. Second one is about Which of the following is true about DSR, direct seeded rice, and JT, zero tillage wheat methods? Both methods require multiple field plowing and the use of traditional herbicides for weed control. DSR requires establishment of a paddy nursery, puddling, transplanting and repeated flooding of fields. DSR and JT wheat use a chemical herbicide, Imis hyper, for weed control, replacing water and repeated field plowing. There is no significant water saving with DSR and it does not reduce labor in transplanting and weed management. So we had discussed this thing about the stubble burning, DSR and JT and what's their advantage. So this question is based on the what are the benefits of DSR and JT we have, and it's very easy to find out. Now we'll come to the third question. The third question is, which of the following strategies should retail investor adopt during times of global market uncertainty? Engage in day trading and take speculative position in the futures and options segment. Invest primarily in small and mid-cap companies to maximize potential gains. Avoid panic selling and refrain from day trading and speculative position in the futures and options segments. Bet heavily on the mid and small cap indices as they are less affected during market corrections. So you have to also answer this. This is about the market situation. Now we'll come to the last question of today's session. What is the range of parts per million for the hard rock lithium deposits found in Korba by a private exploration company funded by the NMET? 100 to 200 ppm, 150 to 50 ppm, 200 to 300 ppm, 168 to 295 ppm. So we had discussed about that in Korba district only. The lithium ore is doing fine. Other areas are very much disturbed because of the local protest, because of the lack of knowledge, because the lack of willingness by the government. So you have to find out this thing. And that's it for today's session. I hope you like this session. If you have any queries related to this session, kindly ask in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice day.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.